All right, welcome everyone to the SFGL Podcast. I'm Nino Pagara, and I'm here with Alyssa Williamson, two-time successful business owner, now business coach and mentor. I'm super excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you, Nino. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, just based on the last conversation we had, I know we're going to get into lots of fun topics, but just to start, maybe give us a little bit of your background in entrepreneurship, how you got started, those early influences and such.
Yeah. So I pretty much have been self-employed my whole career. I started my first business, which was a graphic design marketing company in college. I actually was getting clients in college, and then I was going to college in New Zealand, came back to the Bay Area, tried to find a job, May of 2009. And then I realized that I was still getting clients faster than I was getting job applications. And so that was sort of I'm just going to go be a business owner because it's more productive. It was the direction I was getting results. But I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My parents were consultants, self-employed. And so it was just sort of the obvious path to me.
Yeah. So you had people in your family, I guess, that you mentioned your grandpa, right? What did he do as an entrepreneur?
So he was sometimes a little bit. So the challenge of being an entrepreneur, sometimes you're a little bit too ahead of your times. And he had a couple of different businesses. One was actually a multi-million-dollar business back in the 50s, 60s, I guess. And this was in New Zealand. So he'd moved from the Netherlands to New Zealand after World War II, immigrated, and then built up this business that was actually like chartering whole planes. It was he built a Dutch society, had this whole like community, and they would charter planes and they would do trips to different places around the world. And So probably not a business you could do now, but like something very innovative and creative back then. And the airlines didn't actually like him. And the government didn't actually like him, but yeah, he came up with all these really innovative businesses. And so some worked, and then some failed, and that was one that really took off and was a huge success for a while.
That's incredible. I guess I was curious to see if you had maybe, gotten to witness what he was doing firsthand, if you had, experienced.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, his business was stolen from him by his business partner, and back then there wasn't a whole lot you could do. So that's something I actually talk about a lot with clients too, is like the mindset of that, of like, well, my family had this experience. It wasn't safe to be wealthy because people steal it from you.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've never really considered that much. It hasn't happened in my family yet. But very, very cool, background. But then, going into college, you started freelancing, right? So tell me a little bit about that. What were you doing and how are you getting clients?
So I actually joined my program thinking I was doing video game design and I'd always loved websites. I taught myself to build a website when I was like 12, just one of those basic ones. And so while I was in the program, it was funny, just having that degree. Like I went to see a health specialist for some like hip or back problems I was having. And he's like, oh, so what do you do? And then it turned into like, I did a whole PowerPoint presentation for him, or I did a logo for someone, so it was just, the nice thing was, I guess it was just meant to be. Like I would tell people my business and they'd be like, oh, I need a logo or I need a website. And it built a lot from that. Then as I was officially building my business, my parents, word of mouth, I guess they were like, they had connections, but I would just say they were my biggest referral source. They were my biggest cheerleaders, and they're always giving out my cards to people. And so I got a lot of clients that way through them as well.
That's amazing to have that kind of support. That's very cool. So most of it was word by mouth through your parents then?
And then I started networking. And that's one big thing with business. Like you got to go outside your comfort zone. And I was a huge introvert. I'm still an introvert, but I love people. I don't have the same fears that I used to, but I was a huge introvert, afraid to raise my hand, afraid to have people look at me. And I was like, I got this business. I got to get clients. So guess I got to go network. got to go talk in front of people, got to like be found and be seen. And so I just sort of didn't give myself a choice. I was like, this is what you do to grow a business. So this is what I'm going to go do.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I'm naturally introverted as well. But I recognize that that's going to stand in the way of my success if I allow it to. And so I just have to kind of put that in the back of my mind and just move forward anyway. Okay. So you're building this business, and now you're starting a network. What did you do to network? Did you go to like business meetups or I don't know, any ideas there on what people can do?
Yeah. So I was in the Bay Area at the time, like this is 2010 or something. So way before everything lit. Like now it's so easy. There's so many virtual opportunities. And for some reason, I couldn't find anything in my area, even though later on I found a ton of things. So I was driving like an hour and a half down to San Jose, South San Jose, going to these different meetings in the evening. And just sort of word, again, like it's still word of mouth. It's still testimonials. I would meet someone, we'd have a one-to-one, like they'd either know someone who needed some work or they needed some work. And I had that beginning business owner problem as a solopreneur where like if you network, suddenly you get all this work and then you're too busy to network and then you stop networking because you're too busy to do it. And then like there's like a 3-month cycle, 3 to 6 months. So the work you're doing now, you see the results in 3 to 6 months. And so I'd be super busy. And then when I stopped networking, 3 to 6 months later, I'm like, oh, business got really slow again. Why is that? Oh, because I stopped networking or stopped doing all those things in the marketing. So it's noticing that cyclical cycle as you get more experience, you sort of learn how to balance it. But as a new business owner, like, oh my gosh, all of this or all of this.
Yeah, it's kind of that feast or famine, right? That's very interesting. And yeah, finding ways. I don't know if you probably, I'm sure, mastered how to kind of continue to network as you were also working. But you did mention last time that you were essentially doing it. Okay, just so I get this right, you hit 10K a month year 2, right? Maybe talk us a little bit about that. And you said specifically that you had done it the hard way, doing long work hours and all that. So maybe talk about how you bridged that point and when you hit some roadblocks there.
Yeah. So I built my business. First year I was part-time, just putting in the effort. To me, like I considered it a success. And like getting clients to grow a business, I considered a success, but I was like, okay, there's more I can do. I need to be getting up to full time and this is going to be my career. And then year 2, I started finding that balance of like marketing correctly, finding the message, finding the clients that I wanted to work with. But I was also newer and I was still 2 years out of college, newer designer. So I had lower prices. So I hit 10K months, but I was working 80-hour weeks. I didn't yet have the confidence in myself and my business to like raise pricing. I didn't have boundaries. All of the things I now teach my clients, I didn't do. So I learned from personal experience what not to do. And so another piece was, as I mentioned, my grandparents immigrated from Netherlands to New Zealand. My parents immigrated from New Zealand to the US. So I was like, I had 2 generations of immigrants. And we often have this mindset of, oh, well, of course I can achieve my dreams. I just have to work really hard and make it happen. So I'd set this goal of, oh, well, successful business is 10K months. Set the goal and I hit it. But I also was fulfilling like my family mindset or belief of, oh, we work really hard to hit success. And so those were some of the things I had to overcome to get to the level of success I am today, is finding out what true success is. And like, as I tell my clients, it's the lifestyle you're living, not just the money you're making.
Right. Okay. So you run into that, you're essentially burning out because you're working so much. Mm-hmm. Did you solve it just by raising prices, or kind of what did you do to move forward and pivot?
So I wish that had been what I'd done. I wish it was creating boundaries. I wish it was revisiting my business structure and raising my prices. But I didn't yet have that confidence or experience. If I'd had the business coach like I am today to help me, that would have been perfect. Instead, I was just like, I hit desperation. I hired a friend who was a subcontractor to help me get some of the work done. But I was still like, I don't know how I can continue this. And then I was approached, I met this other guy in graphic design business, web design business. And he's like, I'm looking for a business partner. I want someone to partner up with. I want someone who can work on like this part of the business while I grow this part of the business. And he was a great guy. It was a great opportunity. It probably wasn't the right opportunity for me, but I was burnt out. I was desperate. I was like, this is my lifeline. I have no idea what else I can do. This is my way to grow to the next level. So we became business partners and didn't really see a whole lot of traction in that time. I learned stuff. It was a great experience. It made me realize when you're joining with someone or creating a new partnership, like there's so much more you should do to be ready for it, to know it's the right opportunity. But to me, I was just like, I'm drowning. This is my answer. So we were a business partner for a couple of years, and then I went back on my own because I realized it wasn't moving in the direction I wanted. Great guy, learned a lot of great lessons. It just wasn't the right fit. But that's where sometimes like looking at your business collaborations that you're having as well. Why are you doing it? Is it out of desperation that you're forming this partnership or this collaboration? Is it a place of confidence and power? Do you feel like it's the right fit, or are you just doing it because it's the only thing you could find? That was some of the lessons I learned from back then.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You said that there were maybe some key pieces that needed to be there before you brought on a partner. Did you have specific things in mind that you could share with the audience, or just in general, do you recommend being really careful?
It's really working. Like if I'd been more confident in myself and my abilities and trusted myself more, if I'd gone back to, hey, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed out. What do I need to change in my business? What can I control first? That would have been a much more powerful approach. Probably, as I said, like I should have raised my rates. I should have like maybe checked it. When you first start business, you take on a lot of clients that maybe aren't your dream clients, but you're like, oh, well, I'll do the work. It's money. I get to work with them. So maybe looking at my client basis, look at the projects I was doing, really refining what do I want my business to look like? What do I want my life to look like? Being more strategic would have been more powerful then. But I just didn't have the experience or the confidence or strategy at the time to do that.
Yeah. It's often, at least in my experience, you see an opportunity, and an opportunity is better than no opportunity, right? So you kind of just jump at it. So I can relate to that. So what happened after you guys kind of split up or went your own ways? What was the next step for you?
So a big influence for me was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I actually read that in my early 20s, bought my first property because I was like, okay, I need to invest. I need to get in assets. And one of the things he talks about is like a solopreneur business isn't an asset. You're still trading time for money, building a business, getting employees. And so, well, of course, like I don't want to always be trading my time for money. So I went, I had my first sort of contractor was my first employee when I went off on my own, built my business up to 2 to 3 employees at different times, and really built my own agency, really focusing on the products I enjoyed. I loved marketing strategy, going deeper with clients. So it was the next evolution of my business. I was offering more comprehensive services. I was getting to next level clients, a lot more retainer work. And so I built up to 30K months, and that portion of that phase of my business hit nearly $250,000 in 1 year. But I still wasn't feeling fulfilled. It was like I'd leveled up in some areas and made some improvements. I had more boundaries, of course, had raised my prices by then. But I was still challenged with okay, I've got more money, but all I'm doing is projects management, and I'm not doing the creative stuff anymore. And this is another problem that business owners have is, okay, get to the next level of business, and now you're just overwhelmed by the tasks and the day-to-day things, and you don't get into that CEO time anymore. You built your business so big that it's just taking up all of your time. And I had a couple things shift. One, I moved from the Bay Area up to Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. So my environment changed. And that was huge because I didn't realize it, but the Bay Area really was a rat race being in the tech world of like, you just do it. You work long hours. Like, people know you got to commute. So it's just long days and busy, and everyone's busy. It was just all this like busyness. And then I went up to Eugene, and they were taking like 3-day weekends in the summer because the weather's amazing. I was like, oh, you can take time off. You can relax. So first off, like, my environment changed. I'd worked with coaches through my business career anyway, so I was familiar with them. But I started really diving into some of the personal development and mindset work. And I did training as a theta healer, which for me, I use for shifting my mindset, finding like mindset blocks. I'm all about the subconscious. What is my subconscious? Your subconscious controls your habits, your actions, the way you show up in the world. And I was like, the way to become a more successful business owner, I need to work on my mindset. And so I spent about 2 years, and this is about the time I moved to Eugene too. So it was all this at the same time, working on my mindset, shifting blocks, really changing the way I viewed the world and the way I like what my beliefs were. And then I did an intuitive success coaching program and got connected to my intuition. So I knew I was intuitive, and I knew I was ignoring it. I would just steamroll over it and do whatever my task list was, whatever my mind told me to do. So it was this combination of getting into a new environment where I didn't have to race all the time, doing a lot of mindset work and personal development work, and then getting connected to my intuition. And I traveled for the first time in 5 years. I went to Europe for 3 weeks. That was unimaginable in my previous like phase of my life and business. And I was like, and I'm making more money, I'm working less. These pieces are finally falling into place. And so that was the big shift for me, was really, that's when I decided to become a business coach. I'd never wanted to be a business coach before that. It was all to become a better business owner myself. And with those foundational tweaks, I consider mindset and intuition like foundational to any business owner. And I was like, I need to help the old me, the stressed out, type A, high achiever business owner who's gotten sucked into their business, become the new me who's crafted their business around the lifestyle they want to have. And so that was the big shift.
That's so interesting. So when you say connecting to your intuition, because I believe that that's important, but a lot of people are like, well, that's intangible. What does that mean? So
yeah.
Like, I don't know. How do you really define that? And what does it look like practically when you apply that?
So the biggest thing is it connects you back to your purpose. So the main reason why, as a business owner, do I want to be connected to my intuition, connects me back to my purpose. When I'm living and doing the work that I love, work doesn't feel like work. I get to empower other business owners. I get to, like, I just had a coaching call earlier, and we were talking, some of it was strategy and pricing and structure, and some of it was marketing, and some of it was like, oh, well, where are you blocking yourself? And it's your passion, it's your joy. It makes you love what you're doing. And so that's one reason, because then you're really living a life of fulfillment. Your business is going deeper, doing the type of work you want to be doing. But listening to your intuition can come in multiple different ways. So it could be, I call it like magical synchronicities. It could be that when you're like, oh, you reach out to a networking buddy or a potential client. Hey, I was just thinking about you. How's it going? And then they're like, oh my gosh, I was thinking of you too. I'm ready to start working. Like, that could be your intuition telling you something. It could be when you're creating marketing and you're really suddenly inspired and excited by a topic. It's your creativity. It's your inspiration. It's really your connection to your subconscious and your highest and best self. And so I have a process that I teach clients through, but the simplest thing you can do is just check in, like ask your intuition yes or no questions. You can be like, should I eat this for breakfast? Or should I eat that? Should I wear this today or wear that? When you're out for a walk, just be like, does it feel good to go left or right? everyone feels their intuition differently. So you sort of have to have this self-awareness to figure out what it means, it feels like to you, so that you can listen to it.
That's so interesting. And I mean, I'm someone of faith, that's religious. Yeah. And so, I have a different way of framing that, but it's been very powerful in my life. But for someone that maybe hasn't experienced it, I mean, because it kind of in a sense defies logic, right? That's kind of what you're going against, is the analytical brain, and you're trusting your gut essentially in a lot of ways. And so I don't know, it's interesting. And I can imagine that a lot of people have a hard time, embracing that, because it's new and it's different and it's uncertain and it's not part of the plan. And, so I don't know, how do you kind of overcome those inhibitions, I guess, when it comes to just trusting and leaning in?
Yeah, great question. So it is, and it was, the business world is very masculine, and masculine energy is do. And intuition is more sit and be creative and get insights. It's like when you're in the shower and suddenly like you get this great idea, because you're not forcing a thought to happen. You're just letting it come in and bubble to the surface. And it could be spiritual. Some people consider it religion. You can call it whatever you want. It's just that insight that comes in when you're not forcing it to happen. And it can be whatever most resonates with you. For me, the best way to notice it is to notice when you listened to it and it got great results, and when you ignored it and something didn't go well. It's that gut feeling when you're sitting with a potential client. Like, I've got some red flags, or I don't know what it is. Because your subconscious collects so much more information than your conscious brain realizes. And that's what it is. It's all this other information that you're reading their body language, you're reading this, you don't realize it, but you're taking in this extra information. So it could be, you're sitting in this potential client meeting, and you're like, it doesn't quite feel right, but I need the money. Like, for some people it's, oh, but I need the money, or, but like, I can help them so much. And then they turn into like a nightmare client, or they just take up all your time and don't appreciate you or don't value you. And then you look back and you're like, I knew I shouldn't have worked with them, but I did it anyway. So sometimes you can't trust your intuition until you've started experiencing the positive and negative of it as well, because experience is what gives you confidence in it. Or else listening to other people who were like, a lot of successful people are like, I trusted my gut. So finding, I'm sure, like, I don't really, like Brendan Burchard, Oprah Winfrey, like, find someone who's successful, who has stories of trusting their intuition otherwise too, and lean into their trust until you can trust your own.
Yeah, I like that. Relying on, I guess, the stories of others. This whole subject is really interesting for a lot of ways. And the way that I kind of frame it too is almost, just being open to the serendipities of life in some regard, right? Because, when you're so rigid in your plan and you've got kind of these blinders on that it only has to be this way, or you can't deviate from what you think needs to be done, then you're closed off to, the opportunities that may just walk into your life, right? And so I can definitely attest to the fact that listening to that inner voice, that gut, whatever you want to call it, somehow it performs miracles almost. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. So I definitely recommend that to all the listeners out there. If you've got a feeling in your gut to do something, go for it. And I think so much of entrepreneurship is that way, where you got to just go off a feeling and trust that it's going to work out. And I'm a very naturally curious person, and so I kind of just like picking on threads to see where it goes. And I think that's part of it too. Just letting that little thought, even if it's tiny, turn into something larger. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about you're coaching. Okay. So you're business coaching. What kind of clients do you work with? What stage of business are they at? And do you have kind of a niche target audience for that, or is it just kind of anyone that needs help with business?
Yeah. And so I'll sort of backtrack and tie it into what we've been talking about too. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in strategy and action, but the mindset and intuition is the foundation of it. So when I coach clients, I actually work in 3 different areas. We look at subconscious, like where are they blocking themselves? Where are they resisting? What is holding them back as a business owner? Because as a graphic designer, I would create whole marketing plans and strategies for people. All they had to do is press go and they would resist it. And I was like, I just did all the work for you. What's holding you back? All you just need to do is implement it. And so that's my first where I saw like, oh, mindset really can block people from growing their business. And so it's the foundational piece of what I work with clients. I also work in business systems and pricing and strategies and marketing and content. So the actual tangibles of their business too, because you can't grow and expand your business without that information. And then high performance habits is sort of the third way I look at it is, how are you showing up in your business? These are your goals. How are you actually implementing them and making them happen? And so I work with business owners who have hit a level of success in their business on their own. And now they're like, okay, I've done what I could. I need to do something different to get to the next level. I need to do something different to double my income or triple my income or whatever their income goal is. Or they're like, I'm happy with this income level, but I can't sustain the workload. Like, I'm just killing myself with this. So it's like they've hit success and now they want to make more and work less. And I work with service-based business owners, especially females, just because it's a very masculine world and I love empowering other women. But I do have male clients as well. And really fine-tuning their business. It's almost like, okay, you've gotten through level 1 or 2 in business ownership. How do I up level to the next level? And helping them do those tweaks and refinements that, maybe if they spent the next 10 years in business, they could learn on their own. Let's do it now. They want to do it faster. They want to take action. They want to see results. So I work with like those action takers, those high achievers who are like, yes, let's make this change in my business now. I want results. I want it to happen. And I just want support and guidance to get there faster.
I love that. Are there, you mentioned how mindset is a big, inhibitor for people. Are there other kind of common pieces that, a lot of your clients don't have in place? I'm trying to think. I guess what I'm asking is what the common threads are with a lot of these people. Is it, I don't know, is it that they don't have SOPs in place, or is it that they, aren't marketing a certain way, or is there anything kind of, any kind of insight that you can draw for people that are starting businesses so that they can avoid similar mistakes?
Yeah. So big one is marketing. A lot of people don't go deep enough and specific enough. Okay. I'm all about know your ideal client so well that you know their desires, their dreams, their hopes, their inspirations, and you can speak directly to that. But build your business to be the best one build your business to be the best one to provide support for them. So it's not like you're trying to convince someone. Know them so well. You've built your business or your services to serve them to the best of anything that you know possible. So that's, as a new business owner, it takes time to know your target audience and target clients. So it can take a little bit of time to tweak that, but just constantly be tweaking that to be offering better services, because your messaging will speak to the right people. And so you can see by the clients you're attracting, is your messaging elevated enough? Are you calling in a lot of, I'll just speak from my experience as a graphic designer. And I actually have a lot of clients who are graphic designers too, because I've got that experience. Are you calling in a lot of new business owners? Well, that tells me that your messaging is speaking to that level of person and that level of pain. If you're trying to reach the business owner who's expanding, they have a whole different mindset, whole different framework. They have a whole different problems, and your messaging has to be entirely different for that. So I know everyone talks about marketing and niching, but it really does matter. And it's a metric you can judge based on the people you're attracting to. You can be like, oh, I'm still not speaking elevated enough because I can see who I'm attracting, that sort of thing. The other piece is confidence and pricing too. Like, yes, you start out lower when you're younger and don't yet have the experience to charge the higher rates, but then knowing how to charge. I also work with graphic designers going from project-based to retainer-based. And so there's a big fear there. What do my contracts look like? What do my pricing look like? So I work with people, and I don't have a one-size-fits-all. Again, it's what do you want in life? Are you building an agency, or are you building a team? Or do you want to stay the solo route? If so, what does each path look like? So having clarity on where your business is going to. What is that eventual vision? Because yes, you need SOPs if you're building a team. You need SOPs anyway, but like, especially if you're building a team, you can't hit it off if you don't have structure and processes in place. So I'll work with a lot of clients as they're expanding and building their teams too. And then another one is really belief. Like, do you believe that you can do this? Do you have faith and confidence and trust in yourself? And how, like, building up that confidence. Sometimes I have to be the one they have confidence, but like to get to the next level requires a different level of confidence and different level of service. So you're just constantly evolving as a business owner, and your business is evolving too.
I love that. Those are great answers. Lots of valuable stuff right there for people to unpack. Speaking of being at a different level, you're clearly not, at the same level as when you were doing the 80-hour work weeks, right? And
yeah,
just getting clients through referrals. I'm curious as to how you're marketing specifically. I mean, because I imagine that you're doing more than just referrals, right? To draw business in for your agency. Or, you were until you really shifted to coaching. So I guess that would be another question is what did you do differently with your marketing to start bringing in people as you grew and developed?
Yeah. And so there's some of the basics. So I look at marketing as there's best practices, and then you pick and choose the pieces to support your business and your eventual goals. So yes, I still do some networking. I still course on social media, but it's really, okay, where are my ideal clients and how do I get to them and speak to them directly? So it's actually some of the processes I work my clients through too, is taking them through how do you be really strategic in your marketing. But like Facebook groups are great. If you can find groups of your ideal market, doing free trainings, free master classes, having that sort of, especially as a coach, people need to experience me and trust me first. So I'll do occasional master classes because a lot of my clients come from that at first experience with me and then are ready to move to the next level. But the thing about market is every business is different. Some people, it's a very short sales process. I need XYZ widget. They see it first and then they buy it. Or I need this service. I need a website. Okay, let me just go find a web designer and then I'll go get it. And so it really depends on the business too, as to how long the sales process is, what that looks like, what's the customer journey have to look like. And so every business is unique. And that's what's so fun about it too, is I know best practices, but what are the blocks that fit best in for your business and your goals? And let's make that happen for you most efficiently as possible.
I love that. It's so interesting. You're absolutely right. Every business is so individualized, right? And you can take so many different approaches based on what you're doing. I love that. So another thing I wanted to touch on, you've mentioned that, throughout your career as a business owner, you used coaches at one point. You mentioned the book by Robert Kiyosaki. What are some other ways that you kind of continually improved yourself and leveled up, I guess?
Yeah, so I love I've gone through different phases at different times. So some days it was like, oh, I'd find certain people on YouTube, like, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll be able to tell you, but like when I was driving more, I would find books or podcasts to listen to, or I try to always have one book I'm reading. Like I read for a few minutes before I go to bed at night. But right now I'm reading a book from a therapist on mindset and strategies for mindset. Cause I'm like, well, I've got some great strategies, but let's see if I can learn something new to teach my clients. So I guess the fun thing is everything I'm learning is then things that relate to what I can teach my clients. But I love it because I love the topics of business development. There's a book on upper limit problems. So I guess sometimes it's podcasts. It depends on what phase of life. When I'm doing a lot of house renovations, I listen to more podcasts. Because when I'm painting, I can listen to a podcast. Other times it's book or on the Kindle. But just, I guess I love learning. So it's always, sometimes I'm doing it in real estate and like investing. Sometimes it's in mindset. Sometimes it's in business. Sometimes it's in marketing. But just learning what excites me, I think, is the big thing. And because I love it, because it excites me, I want to do it and I make time for it. And that's actually something I also teach clients to do is you can't do something, you can't force yourself to do something from willpower. You have to find what is pulling you forward about it. What excites you about it? You're not going to stick to a workout routine if you hate it and you hate going out in the cold and you hate having to drive and you hate having to get to the gym. You're just not going to maintain it. Whereas if you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good when I do this workout or when I do that workout, and you focus on the positive, that's what'll pull you forward and that's what'll make you continuously want to do it. So I guess I'm lucky that the things I love to do tie into my business and learning, but like I love renovating and fixing up properties at the same time. I'm just multifaceted. I just try and jump around. You could say it's ADHD, but I complete things.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. It just sounds like you're very aligned with what your purpose is, what motivates you. All of it seems like it runs parallel, and that's an amazing place to be in. Speaking of a lot of different things, it's a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, like maybe they do have ADHD or they have, they have this shiny object syndrome, right? Where they're chasing kind of the next thing. How do you, kind of center yourself and pick and choose what you pursue so that you're not just starting a bunch of projects without finishing them?
Yes, I love this. So this is, I consider this like high performance habits. So picking one or two priority goals and working on those first. I do up to like with clients, I'll work on helping them pick 3 and then working and fine tuning that. But pick your most important things. Like I have run multiple businesses. I've fixed up rental properties while running businesses, but you can't do them all at once. You can't be growing 3 new businesses at the same time. One has to be established and able to run on its own while you're building this new thing. Or you can't be building businesses while you're trying to flip a house. So knowing what is your priority at this moment in time. Is it this business is expanding? Am I starting this business? Am I doing this? And picking, I would say for most people, pick one thing. Pick one thing to focus on at a time. If you're doing it on your own, and then break that down. What do I need to complete today to work towards this one big thing that I'm working on?
I love that. Yeah, I've found that I get to a point where I start a lot of different things and I always have to come back to, all right, like, let's just throw the other ones away for a minute and focus on the one. And that's usually where, if I've got too much up in the air, that's where the stress comes from. That's where I feel burned out and overwhelmed. And then whenever I kind of table the rest, that's when things get a lot easier. And because the clarity is there, right? And you're putting all your energy into something. It's I don't know if you've seen that drawing of it's essentially a scribbly line, and it's I think it was the cover of of a book that I saw actually. Um, and it was basically, a balled up mess, and it said something about how that's what it looks like when you're trying to do multiple things, and then the straight line is when you're just doing one, right? So the idea is just making progress, noticeable progress in one direction when you're focused. And that's definitely how I felt when I can get that part right.
Yeah. Well, multitasking isn't a thing. Your brain is just switching quickly from between things. So yes, you'd like to think you are, but you're using up brain power, which is just like a muscle. The more you use your brain and make more decisions you make during the day, the more it's going to tire. That's why by the end of the day, like if you made a lot of decisions during the day, like you're just like, I'm done. I go to the junk food if it's in the closet. Like you don't do the thing you said you were going to do because you're just too tired. And when you can just be like, okay, if I just did this one thing today, that's a successful day. Not all of these other pieces that are trying to come up and trying to come in there.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, let's talk about some of the unexpected benefits of being an entrepreneur. Like what have you enjoyed about being your own boss?
Yeah. So when I first started out, I was like, oh, the great thing about being an entrepreneur is that you get to work whenever you want, which was all the time at the time. And so once you've got boundaries up, and once you've got boundaries and communication, there's what really creates flexibility. I used to be afraid to tell clients I was going on vacation. Like there was this fear that, oh, if I'm on vacation, I'm going to lose clients because I can't be human. I have to be perfect and amazing. Recovering perfectionist here too. And so the great thing is when you get past that stage, or some people start out with great boundaries and great communication. When you get past that, like you can choose your hours or choose your days. For a while, like sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to finish the day by 3 p.m. and that's the end of the day. Or, oh, okay, Fridays are off. And you just tell clients and let them know. You have to build your business around that. And it has to be something that you've like planned in. But when clients know that, you have that flexibility. I know some people are afraid of being self-employed because they're like, oh, well, I don't get health insurance. I guess I'm afraid of people telling me, I'm not afraid, but like the thought of people telling me what to do, that I'd go to an office, work 9 to 5. Like, I can't do that. I love the flexibility. I love, if it's an amazing day, I can go take a 2-hour lunch break. I'll either do the work later or I'll balance it out. So once you figure out how to get that, I hate balance. Like once you figure out how to craft your day, you have so much more flexibility. And sometimes it does take that hard work. Like sometimes it does take building up. It's like a baby. You got to take care of it for a little. Your business is like a baby. You got to take care of it for a little while. You got to build in the time, build in the systems. But then you get the freedoms.
Yeah, I love that.
It works from anywhere if you had to.
Right. Yeah, I find that to be so motivating for me. I mean, I don't want to be stuck in one place necessarily. I don't know if I told you this on our last call, but my family and we spent a few months in Mexico, like work from home. And so we just went, and a lot of people, are tied down to their physical location because of a job, an office that they have to be at. Right. So I love that aspect. Definitely. I have a note here, about staying on top of technology. How has technology impacted things? Where do you see it, changing, I guess, the game for entrepreneurs moving forward? I'm curious, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. And so as a graphic designer, like I started before WordPress was a thing. I started HTML, CSS coding, hand coding, everything. Internet Explorer was my absolute nightmare. Hated that browser. And then as like WordPress has come out, like there's things like Squarespace and Wix. And as as a web designer, that could have freaked me out. I'm like, oh my gosh, people build websites. Instead, I looked at it as, oh, the people who can't afford me now have a tool or an option. The people who value me are still going to pay for me to do their website. So that was my process along the way. Always had to be learning like social media or SEO, or that things is. SEO, when I first started, was way different than SEO is now. And so there's always a piece of like, okay, what is my industry? What do I need to stay on top of? How can I still be providing the best services to my clients? And now things like AI, like there's some scary things coming out about that, but then there's some things where it's like, this will make my life easier in this sense, or how can I use it? Like people using ChatGPT, I don't use it to write content, but I've seen it where it's like, it can help inspire ideas, or it can help with some of the brainstorming, like utilizing that crowdsourcing, internet sourcing power. I am in a lot of graphic designer groups because those are my clients, my experience, and they're like, AI and design and AI and art and AI and music. There's some scary things out there, what it could do, but there's also ways that it can be a tool. So finding out, how can this support me, and not getting into that fear mindset? Like society is shifting and adjusting. It's going to settle in some way, but finding out, how can this support me? How can I use this? How can I use this as a tool to grow? Then you'll be at the front runner of the process.
I love that, because I can see how a lot of people would be afraid that some new program will come and take their job essentially, or if they try and start a business, and some AI technology comes along and wipes them out, or it completely changes the market. I can understand, but I mean, the thing about entrepreneurship is that you have to be flexible, and you have to, like you said, keep the proper mindset. So I think that's really important. And especially, okay, so last time we also talked about how, it's important to have that same mindset when it comes to other people, specifically competitors, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So you can have an abundance mindset, or you can have a scarcity mindset. You can be like, oh my gosh, I have so many competitors around. How am I ever going to get business? You're bringing yourself down to begin with. Or you could be like, oh, look, let's connect. Let's meet up with this person. I think the word is like coopetition. Like, that you're not going to refer people to each other all the time, but maybe they do something you don't do. Maybe they love the task that you hate. Even just knowing other people in your industry around you. I would meet with other web designers. I meet with other coaches. I just met with another coach, and she's like, oh, well, we have some overlap. And I'm like, yeah, but you do XYZ that I don't even want to touch. So if I have clients looking for that, I'm going to refer them to you instead. So it's like, how can there be more than enough? And how can you build alliances and relationships with people rather than being like, oh no, they're my competition, I'm not going to talk to them? How can you have this community around you? They're business owners too. They're going through the same challenges. Maybe you could be like business mastermind buddies instead and support each other. I know it was in the Bay Area. I knew this sign company, and his point of view was, okay, let's meet up with other sign company owners in the area. And sometimes he would just outsource to the other people and just have them do the work. They had a great relationship. One guy was like, oh no, you're my competition, I can't touch you. And didn't get to be in a part of this community. And then there were like 4 or 5 sign owner companies that would just work together and collaborate. Oh, I've got too much work this month. Can you take this project on, or this or that? And instead made this great alliance and co-op, I guess, amongst them.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think, we live in a strange world where a lot of us in business, we look at it as, this ultra competitive, if I don't get this client, someone else will, and so you can't trust anyone, you can't work with anyone, you have to be, very focused on yourself. And it's not an empowering place to live from or work from. So I love that. I love that you're talking about that. Speaking of other people, what if in your life, I guess, what are some of the people that have played the most significant role or had the most impact on your business? So in terms of maybe key employees you've hired or key mentors you've had, speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's powerful. I would say all of the coaches I've worked with along the way opened my eyes to something new. They were something that I needed at the time, but some that really have stood out. Some have been, so in the beginning, I guess, I had this really strong power partner. She was in paid ads. And this was before, like, eventually they expanded and offered web design services. But she was in paid ads. And so she had all these clients. She's like, oh, you need a better website. You need to go talk to Alyssa. So she was probably finding great power partners in business too is amazing, because when your services are complementary but don't overlap, like when I made a better website for them, her ads had better pricing, like they would stay with her longer. So we had this great complementary relationship. I'd say a lot of it has been mentors, people getting me to the next level. One was a coach that really taught me like focusing on being present and gratitude and celebrating my wins. As a lot of high achievers, I was like, oh, hit that goal, on to the next. And so learning to celebrate wins, that was huge. Some great, like I've just had great client relationships too. But a lot of it has been, mentors. I didn't actually talk about this, but I'm a Mary Kay consultant. And there was a time in my life where just having these women empowering me as a woman, they were the ones that are like, listen to your intuition, trust your intuition. Just being surrounded by this community of women that were like positive and uplifting was a huge difference in my life too. Because as a business owner, you're doing so much of it alone. So finding a community of people who are just celebrating and uplifting you, and you can share and be vulnerable with so that you can grow. Like, hey, this is really a challenge right now. So that could be a mastermind. I've started masterminds with people because I was like, I'm all alone in my business. I need to talk to other business owners. So yeah, I think it's community, mentors, accountability buddies. I've got another woman who's another coach. We met in a coaching program like 3 years ago, maybe. We talk we're Facebook messaging every day, and every Monday and Friday we have accountability calls, and we still keep each other going. So just having people on the journey with you.
I love that. I think that's a great place to wrap this episode up on. Where can people connect with you and work with you?
Yes. So I love talking. I love building relationships. You can find me on my website, alyssawilliamson.com. Alyssa is ALYSSA, and then Williamson, WILLIAMSON. And on there, I actually have a free training for those who are looking to get the next level in your business. 3 simple secrets to 25K months. And you can also just connect with me. I'm super active on Instagram. Mention this podcast. Hey, I heard you on with Nino, and this came up, and I just want to chat. Like, just reach out and DM me.
I love that. I love that you're so open and willing to meet with people. I'll have links in the show notes, so people, if you're listening, go there to learn more about Alyssa and connect with her. Thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything last thought or last thing you want to share with people before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it was just that last comment we're talking about. You don't have to be alone in business, and it's finding that support. For sometimes in my life, like I'm working with a coach right now, and she is amazing at getting me to the next level. Maybe it's finding that community. Maybe it's finding just that accountability buddy. Find someone to do it with, because it can be lonely as a business owner. So finding someone who supports you and uplifts you, becomes your cheerleader. Maybe it's your family members, but just building that community as a business owner is so valuable.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. I agree 100%. You definitely know what you're talking about. You have lots of experience that you're coming from. And I definitely recommend to work with you. Thank you so much again for being on the show. For our audience members, wherever you're listening from, please make sure you like this and share this with others. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're on. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much, Alyssa, again.
Thank you, Nino. It was fun.